seems to be doing in Geometry Dash lately is jumping. Not jumping over spikes, but the task of trying to complete a level that is significantly harder than your current hardest level.
Okay, this is dumb. This is dumb. This is dumb actually. Of course you gotta jump so much dash.
Behind jumping which make it so popular nowadays. And finally answering the question of whether
popular? What you're talking about, bro? Bro, what are you talking about? Like, of course jumping is popular. You gotta jump to just walk. Okay, this is so dumb. Super dumb.
it's a good way to improve your skill or not. If you enjoy this,
yes, it's improved. Good dumb, bro.
Some of GD's most legendary players pull off insane level jumps. The most known example is of course the best player Zoink, who jumped from Bloodbath to Zodiac.
Oh yeah, I know him.
40k attempts. Or the legendary player UFWN, who jumped from the insane demon Acropolis to Cold Sweat in June of 2021, beating it in 33k attempts. And over the years, jumping levels has become more and more popular. It feels like every week
The new player that accomplished an insane jump or is making progress on one. We just had King Moose, who beat Bloodbath as his literal first level ever in Geometry Dash, Herx, who's been working on the largest jump ever from Toe 2 to Tidal Wave for over 2 years, and me, who just jumped from Bloodbath to
oh heck nah, Tidal Wave? Oh heck nah, heck nah.
But why are people doing jumps in the first place? Well, I think there's 3 main motivations behind people doing jumps in GD. So let's go through each one and figure out whether it's a good reason to jump or not. The first reason I think most people are doing jumps nowadays is for recognition. Seeing someone attempt an insane jump is gonna get people talking and intrigued about your progress more than a player who progressed slowly to whatever level you're playing. Especially with the rise of shorts channels like me who highlight the different achievements by GD players, many people might be tempted to do a jump to gain popularity. I honestly don't think this is a terrible reason, as there's nothing wrong with wanting as many people as possible to see your achievement, but I think the amount of recognition you'd expect to get from a jump is way less than you think it is. Even in the best case scenario where you complete your jump and get
Subscribe to this guys, very dumb. Very dumb.
At best, you might be able to capitalize on the attention you get from a jump by following up with more content, but even then, you'll find doing a jump solely for recognition will likely be very underwhelming and one of the least efficient ways to gain notoriety in
So to me, this is a
out of 10 reason. Don't make this your only motivation for a jump. But the second reason people jump, I think is a good one, which is having a strong passion for the level you want to jump to. Whether it's because you dreamed of beating it as a kid,
Of course we have passion for that. Cool.
level is a valid reason to want to jump to it. This also applied to my jump, as the dedication series which Renavent is a part of is my absolute favorite in the entire game, and it was one of my dream levels to beat since it was released. However, even if you really love a certain level, I would still make sure you're not completely out of the skill range for it. For example, my dream hardest is Anathema, which is still a long ways away from me at the moment. If I jump to it now, I'm still gonna have an insanely difficult experience, which is not gonna change just because I like the level so much. I think picking a level you love is kind of a cherry on top, and is gonna make you much more likely to want to commit the effort necessary to complete the jump. So I'd say this is about a 6 out of 10 reason to do a jump. Now we get to the last and most controversial reason you'll see people wanting to jump, which is to improve their skill. This topic is a very polarizing one, with some people
I'm improving my skill, bro.
improve your skill in GD, while others say it's one of the worst.
improve skill. So what's the truth? In general, hardware upgrades and mindset aside, improvement in GD is all about training your muscle memory over and over again and learning timings through visual cues in a level. A good example of a muscle memory dependent part would be River's Wave in Slaughterhouse, which gets consistent through repetition as your brain registers the muscle memory of the click pattern.
Slaughterhouse is super hard. Like, I got 1% on it.
Part, where you have to focus on the icon's positioning relative to the spikes to properly time each jump. The only thing that really matters for improving skill is that you're pushing yourself through harder and harder levels over time to improve your brain's ability to retain the muscle memory and time inputs. And this can absolutely be done through jumping, but will only be optimal for certain players. The truth is, what may be a bad jump for one player will actually be perfectly optimal progression for another. A great example of this is the Osu player Emrek, who recently just beat Slaughterhouse. He absolutely blazed through his early extremes like Aku, Bloodbath, and even the List Demon Unknown, which he beat in 3 days. This shows us that his skill was already beyond those levels. If he just continuously played incrementally harder levels just because the average player does, his skill wouldn't have improved nearly as fast as it did. So in his case, it's optimal to do these jumps from Sonic Wave to Unknown then to Slaughterhouse to improve his skill and push himself the right amount. But on the other hand, a player whose hardest is also something like Aku or Bloodbath should look at Emrek's progression as a universal example to follow. Jumping too far out of your skill range, while it will train your brain and make you better at Geometry Dash, the process only being through one single level for an overly long period of time will likely cause adverse mental consequences. Tiny bits of progress may not feel as rewarding as beating multiple levels, and the redundancy of playing the same thing over and over again for too long is likely to make you very demotivated, making your skill improve a lot.
Demotivated or heck
Of gameplay consistently, your skill improvements will only be very specialized. Imagine someone who jumps from Deadlock to No-Scapes and only plays that level till they beat it. Sure, they'll be insane at Robot and will gain some muscle memory and timing skill boosts, but all their skill in other game modes will be much more lacking compared to someone who rounded out their skill by playing a variety of different gameplay. Basically, everyone's optimal progression path is going to look different. For some, it may include these big jumps going from medium demons to easy extremes to list demons, while others it will be more incremental, smaller jumps, and everything in between. But how do you know which group you fall into? To figure this out, I want you to take your current hardest level and see how many attempts you took to beat it. You're then going to look up on YouTube videos of players beating that level as their new hardest as well. Ideally, players with similar previous level progression as you. Then compare your attempt count with a few of them. If yours is consistently a good amount lower than theirs, that means your skill is likely above your current hardest level, meaning jumping levels would likely be a good choice for you. If it's around the same amount, a jump might be a bit harder and less optimal. And if it's a higher amount than theirs, a jump will be much harder and way less optimal. But before you get excited and jump to Thinking Space 2 because you beat 9 circles twice as fast as your friends, we need to answer another super important question. How far should you jump? Even if you beat your current hardest in less attempts than most people, jumping too far could easily land you in just as bad of an experience as someone who beat your hardest in twice your attempts but did a moderate jump. This question is a lot harder to answer, as the amount of time and attempts you should take to beat a level you want to jump to isn't going to be a universal answer. A player jumping from 9 circles to Aku and Emrek jumping from Unknown to Slaughterhouse shouldn't expect to take the same amount of time and attempts to make the jump, despite both of the jumps being optimal progression for them. To figure out whether you're jumping too far or not, take a look again at other players beating the level you're jumping to as their new hardest, but not as a major jump, and look at their progression if they shared it. Let's say it took them a week and 5k attempts to get the level in 4 runs. If you play the level and get similar runs in the same amount of time and attempts as these people, then the level you're jumping to is probably at the perfect spot for optimal progression. If you notice it's taking you a lot longer to get certain runs in the same time and attempts as them, then the level you're jumping to might be too far, and if your progression is way faster than them, then the jump may be too small. So all this means that the motivation of jumping to improve your skill may be the perfect or worst reason to do a level jump, depending on how easily you beat your current hardest and how fast you can progress on the level you're trying to jump to. It's your job to compare with others and figure out whether this is a good motivation for you. So it gets a depends out of 10. So that's my take on the different motivations behind the jumping phenomenon in Geometry Dash. Remember that you do have the free will to play this game how you want. Not every jump has to be perfectly optimal progression. Even my jump from Bloodbath to Renavant wasn't completely optimal either. I took around 7k new attempts for Bloodbath and 48k attempts for Renavant, which is around double the attempts as others who beat it as a new hardest, but not as a jump. But I love the level so much that I was willing to endure the extra effort to complete the jump and didn't care about improving my skill at the perfect speed. But everyone's motivations are going to be different. This video just aims to figure out whether your jump and the motivations behind it are right for you. Share the biggest level jump you've done in the comments below and let me know what you agree or disagree with in this video and if there's anything I missed. Thanks for watching.
Duplo no problema.